Mr. Octavian Bădescu, which is entrepreneur. Between May and September 2013 was the director of Courier Division in Priory Post in Poșta Română, founder of several business projects focusing on national and regional development of few brands and companies in service sector, locomobile application for courier industry, same-day courier field expert, acting as a managing partner between 2007 and 2009. Retail plus Eastern Europe, acting as a CEO from June 2008 to December 2011. Other projects are Gift Express, Expert Flowers, co-founder and Secretary General of Romanian Courier Operators Association. Mr. Octavian Bădescu, please.
Thank you very much for this great introduction, and thank you for inviting me to such a great and very useful event that you are organizing on 40 countries, as I've learned already. It's very successful. And in this final part of the panel, I will share with you some, let's say, some short thoughts and comments, some personal perspective of on this important theme, death of taxes. As we know, these are the surest thing in this world, and unfortunately I will disappoint you because I don't have the solution on the death matter, but maybe we can find some on the tax issues. And in order to do this, we should start from some evidence. First of all, we know that the state is the worst administrator as organization. I don't think we need to comment very much on this. We all agree on this fact. Another evidence is that the global trend is toward state expansion, both on bureaucracy side and also on the tax increase side. The third evidence is that even this trend of raising taxes, it's continuing. All this money that it goes to the government, it's not enough. In the last century, the tax increases worldwide from levels of 5 to 10% from the GDP to 30 to 60 from GDP, depend on the country. But even this money was raised, it was not enough. It's still, we are on debt. We are on let's say sovereign debts continuously, and this trend is increasing, affecting practically all the taxpayers after all, and affecting the efficiency of the resource allocation. Therefore, the question and the mission of free market advocates, let's say, and thinkers, it's if it is possible to stop, to change, to reverse this trend, and in the same time, how we can do this. To get answer to these questions, we should start from, we should go back to the origin of this evolution. And this origin, it's coming from the French Revolution, practically, which set the foundation of the basic principles of the actual form of democracy, which is based on universal vote and egalitarian vote. So this was the starting point, and since then the stake of the politicians, which is redistributing resources, increased very much. Why? Because to access the administration of these resources, you need to raise them, and in order to to get to the administration, you need to be elected. So you reach at that point via a vote. How you win this vote? You need to promise more than your predecessor promised. So every time somebody who wants to access to a resource administration, to resource produced by others, because this is the fun here, you need to promise more than your predecessor. Of course, you don't give all your promises, you don't deliver, but part of it you have to deliver. So to deliver part of these promises, it increased the cost. And this is how this increasing of the cost went to state expansion. And state expansion means more resources needed, and these resources are not enough, so it went to sovereign debts. And in order to solve this issue, we need to raise taxes. So this is practically the process. So due to this, let's say, characteristics of the state on one hand, which is territorial monopoly on the using force, so the taxes are quite easy to raise, and on the other hand, the human nature, which goes to greed and corruption, let's say, of the resource administrators, which can be limited only by the limit of the resources. Therefore, we need to find systemic ways, structural reforms to put pressure and to reduce the cost of the states. In order to reduce the cost of the states without underfinancing some areas, we need to reduce the role of the states. So we need to come back to the, let's say, origin of the role of the state, which is protecting us against others' aggression, instead of what is now, protecting us against our own aggression to us. Because for a society it is too expensive to cover such a cost. So it is okay to protect me against other aggression, but if my behavior is an aggression toward me, we as a society cannot cover such a cost. Otherwise, if we cannot find, let's say, ways to do this, going on this trend, we are moving toward communism and toward etatism at a very larger scale compared to today, even to today, and finally to poverty. So what can be practically done? Of course, we cannot take back from the people which we already gave them, like universal vote. Instead of this, we could think about imagining ways of giving more power to the people, like power of influencing the budget allocation, so-called, let's, participatory budgeting. It might influence in a good way this trend. Why? Because those who are providing more resources can have a higher influence on the allocation of these resources. They can decide to which areas their taxes should go, and via this we have more influence. The producer of the resources have more influence on the allocation of the resources. Another way of reforming is, the best way of reforming a system which is ill, is to limit its financing. So we could think about limit the financing of the state, let's say up to a percentage from GDP, for example, or to a certain amount, or to have such a goal that we cannot raise taxes more than a certain percentage from GDP. And in order to do this, we could reduce the areas in which the state is present. If we combine this kind of measure with, let's say, forbidden of the deficit, with, by constitution, let's say, we can come up with a more healthy system. Another way is to think about easily admit the insolvency of the non-profitable companies of the state and of the non-profitable administrations, which is part of the state, local administration, which is more or less bankrupt in some cases, so they cannot sustain themselves. But unfortunately, nowadays, we are not admitting this kind of solutions. And the last part is to start and support political movement as liberal movement who is promoting these kind of ideas. Yes, we will finish now. This kind of political movements should advocate to this kind of innovative solution. We cannot move forward without innovative solutions. And of course, some will say that all these are some kind of utopic solution and not applicable, but so electricity was, or men landing on the moon at some point. So it's not that it is impossible. We should not, let's say, give up on dreaming on this, and as a, let's say, as a final statement, let's remind what Nelson Mandela once said, that it always seemed impossible until it's done. Thank you.